Jeddah, released in the UK as Jeddah the Uncivilized, is a 1955 Australian film written, produced, and directed by Charles Chauvel. It was also the first Australian feature film to be shot in colour. Jeddah is seen by some as an influential film in the development of Australian cinema and setting a new standard for future Australian films. It is historic both for being the first colour feature film made in Australia, but more importantly, because it is arguably the first Australian film to take the emotional lives of Aboriginal people seriously. Chauvel had attempted to create significant Aboriginal characters in some of his earlier films, notably Uncivilized, 1936. Jeddah is a more mature film in which the emotions of Jeddah and Marbach are given considerable weight. It is probably fair to say that Chauvel was a man of his time, with a belief in the separation of races and the primacy of blood as the determiner of behavior. It's also true that he had an unusual degree of sympathy for and interested in Aboriginal culture, partly because of his exposure as a child to Aboriginal families on his grandfather's property on the Clarence River. Rabbit Proof Fence is a 2002 Australian drama film directed and produced by Philip Noyce, based on the 1996 book Follow the Rabbit Proof Fence by Doris Pilkington Garamara. Philip Noyce, director of the film, uses a variety of camera shots, juxtaposition, and music in the kidnapping scene to leave a strong impact on the audience, leaving them with feelings of anger and frustration and seeing the perspective of the Aboriginal people at the time. Through this scene, Noyce displays an interpretation of the stolen generation through the lens of the victim, something that hasn't really been shown yet in Australian cinema, marking it as an impactful moment. Samson and Delilah is a 2009 Australian drama film directed by Warwick Thornton and starring Rowan McNamara and Marissa Gibson, both young first-time actors. The film depicts two Indigenous Australian 14-year-olds living in a remote Aboriginal community who steal a car and escape their difficult lives by going to Alice Springs. The film was monumental to the identity of Australian cinema as it encapsulates the post-colonial state of Indigenous society through the rarely shown perspective of the Indigenous, which was necessary for the world to understand ways the First Nation people were subordinated in their own land. The use of sign and body language in the dancing scene is used very exceptionally to communicate both meaning of teenage love and Aboriginal culture. Warwick Thornton, coupled with Indigenous choreographer A. Gorski, came up with the idea for Samson to do this sexy dance, a dance done by many Aboriginal children in Aboriginal communities, which is predominantly hip-based and used to start the romantic spark between Samson and Delilah. By including this scene in the film, Warwick Thornton provides a platform for showcasing Aboriginal culture. It allows viewers to gain a deeper understanding of the significance of dance within Indigenous communities and challenges stereotypes and misconceptions that exist.